Well, welcome to Red Hot Talk once again. And, thank you very much for joining us this week. We are going to have some fanboy talk about Micro Four Thirds. And so we're here today to talk about a few things. Basically, it's more like a mid-year report for Micro Four Thirds. So we're looking at what's been happening, what has been released so far in 2025. God, we're jumping ahead already. And also, in general, what you think about the Micro Four Thirds development, what sort of wish list you want to have in the forthcoming future, and also whether we should bring back certain model lineup and things like that as well. So hopefully we're going to have a fun and inspiring conversation, and so we can talk a little bit about, Micro Four Thirds in general. So just to kickstart the whole conversation, of course, currently the main players are still the main two, the Panasonic and also OM System, who are the main two basically camera manufacturers for Micro Four Thirds cameras. Blackmagic, I believe that they have already stopped making Micro Four Thirds video cameras already, and I'm not entirely sure, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any sort of update for the past, 5 years now since the last Blackmagic or Micro Four Thirds camera. So that has been that long. They might still selling them brand new, but could be just old stock they haven't sold yet. But apart from that, these are the main two players. I know there are a couple of Chinese manufacturers using Micro Four Thirds sensors for other uses, not necessarily for cameras. I know that there's one camera making use of the Micro Four Thirds sensor for live streaming purposes, so nothing to do with a portable camera they can take out on the street and photograph or do things like that. It's purely a stationary camera for live stream purposes only. You can't even record anything, it's just a camera, almost like a CCTV thing, just point and connect to your laptop or streaming software to do basically what we're doing right now. And also I know there's another company called Yongnuo in China, and they are also the Micro Four Thirds Alliance. So they continue to research and develop some sort of quirky smartphone-like Micro Four Thirds camera. They already made the second generation, but the second generation was about 3-4 years old already. So I'm not sure whether they're in the work for the Mark III. But the first two generations were received mixed reviews from people, and it's not that the concept is wrong. I think it's pretty cool because it's literally an Android smart device. So it's running Android OS. It's got a Micro Four Thirds sensor, a Micro Four Thirds mount, so you can mount any Micro Four Thirds lenses on it and use it like a smartphone, just with a big lens attached to it. So I think this potentially a good idea if they can polish the executions and the design and whatnot, the user experience, of course, because it's still relying on not only contrast detect AF, but the implementation is very poor. So you can't really do any sort of tracking. You can't really do even single point focus is very, very slow. So if they can polish on that, maybe, upgrade the sensor a little bit, making sure that they can, we don't need hybrid AF system like all the flagship stuff, but at least closer to the DFD sort of implementation, such very fast single point focus. I think that is already quite good, right? So this is sort of the players that I'm aware of at the moment. If you know any other manufacturers that are making Micro Four Thirds cameras, please share with the community so we can all learn about it. Maybe I can dig up a little bit. Maybe I can get one for review as well. So you never know. So far, of course, that this year we have a couple of new models that came through. We first have the OM3 from OM System earlier this year, and we also have the brand new OM5, which came out just literally a few weeks ago. These are the two new cameras that I know that's been released this year. Not entirely sure. I think Panasonic, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Panasonic was last year, right? The last update from Micro Four Thirds cameras.
GH7.
Is it GX7? Yes, GX7, but also they released one, kind of like a rebadged one for the USB-C. What was that one?
Oh, the G100D.
Yes. So there were two cameras from Lumix from last year, and this year we got two from OM System. How you guys feel about these cameras in the last couple of years? Personally, I love the GX7, and at least, for people who use that camera, would tell you all about it. It's a great video camera. It's a very capable stills camera. It's got the same sensor as the G9 Mark II. The AF is the same system as well, so everything is just beefed up to be a more professional flagship Micro Four Third camera. And on the OM System side, and actually last year we got the OM1 Mark II as well from OM System. I think that was the Mark II that came out last year. So this year we mainly hear from OM System. I don't know whether we're going to hear anything from Lumix. I can't see any rumor mill talking about any forthcoming Micro Four Third camera that potentially was kind of come up in our radar. Certainly, I don't think G9 Mark II is anytime soon if they're going to release or making anything. Because it's only been, a year, just over a year old, and they're still a very capable camera. And like, judged on the history of the current Micro Four Third developments from Lumix, seems to be very, very long. So like we probably have to wait at least three and a half years before we see a brand new model from Lumix. What do you think, Rod?
Well, I suspect Panasonic has got its hands full trying to make the Lumix S system successful. I don't think MOT is going to be a priority for Panasonic while it's fighting that particular battle. Sorry, is my mic a long way away? So I don't think we'll see a lot from Panasonic on the MFT front myself. It's a difficult situation, really. I'm going to cast a gloom over the whole thing by saying, what if? What if this 20 megapixel stacked sensor is it now? What if this is it? Where do we go from here? If we stop thinking we love this sensor, we love that sensor, what if this is how it's going to be now? Where does home system go from here? And just briefly to answer a question from Anthony, I was aware that Sony's high resolution MFT sensor, I'm not aware of any product that went into it. Could have been some kind of industrial product that was never intended as a consumer device. But I've never seen any indication that might appear in a consumer camera.
And also, I mean, I've been reading Anthony's comments here in the chat room. I think in general, if you look at Sony's website, if you look at the sensor side development, you will actually find there are a ton of different variations and different models for different tiers just on the sensor itself. But a lot of these are like what Rod said, they are made for industrial use. They're not really coming to the consumer side, which is, all our cameras are basically. And also, not only just about the sensor, but the camera manufacturer who adopt these sensors would need to do a lot of the integrations for the sensor to merge with their sensors and the processors. There is a lot going on there. That's why it's not actually as simple as just plug and play. We just buy a sensor, just plug it there.
I don't think Sony is deliberately holding back its best tech, because that's not how it works. How many camera makers has it sold its 60 megapixel sensor to? All of them, as far as I could see. So it's not. Sony is not a company that tries to hoard its best tech for itself. I think it's much more likely that this 60 megapixel MOT sensor is not suitable for a consumer product. It maybe doesn't have the dynamic range. Maybe it has incredibly slow read speed. Maybe it's not very sensitive. Maybe they never got it to work properly in an actual product.
And also, I think it's also to do with supply and demand. And, as simple as that, the Micro Four Third, in terms of sales figures, you can't really compare to, all the major established players, in terms of total numbers from the APS-C and full frames. Obviously, Fuji has a total different sensor altogether, but you can confidently say that Sony has played a big market share in the global sales, and many of the cameras are using Sony sensors. But I could also confidently say that probably over 60-70% of the sensors are either APS-C or full frame. So the Micro Four Third is very small by comparison. And as a business, you wouldn't want to make a loss, right? You want to make profit, and you want to make sure the order is big enough for them to generate these sensors or to sell these sensors.
And I think let's be realistic about this. If you wanted 60 million pixels, you would look for it in a larger sensor size. It's common sense. I think. But I'd be quite interested to know where Fujifilm gets its 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, which is what Sony makes and puts in its own cameras. How do we know that the Fujifilm sensor isn't the same one with an X-Trans color filter on top? I've just made that up. I don't know for sure, but it would be a coincidence, wouldn't it? The two camera makers, two independently develop a 26 megapixel sensor. I think Sony sensors are everywhere, basically. It's just the 60 megapixel one has never surfaced in anything.
And they are like basically like Seiko in the watch industry. You know, Seiko makes a lot of movements for literally all kinds of watches in the world, from budget micro brands and everything like that. Sony is essentially doing the same thing. They're selling sensors to literally everybody. If obviously the order is big enough for them to generate profit, they will just sell them, and that's why you see them everywhere. And they are really one of the biggest players now in terms of sensor manufacturing, at least from a consumer side of it. There are still, a ton of sensor manufacturers in the world. I mean, I'm not an expert on that. I know on top of my head there are about 4 or 5 main players, but Sony's probably one of the bigger one. I know Samsung makes a lot of sensors as well, and yeah, Samsung. I think Canon themselves actually make some sensors. Remember in the past, all the DSLR sensors were actually, most of them were in-house. But until they got to the point they couldn't compete with the Sony sensor in terms of noise performance.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Canon still makes its own sensors. It doesn't always. I'm not convinced it always makes totally good sensors, but I think it still makes its own. They have varied.
They have varied. Yeah. I'm not sure if Kodak still makes sensor though. Remember this Kodak did make some sensors. I'm not entirely sure what happened there.
If you're talking about the DSLR ones back in the day,
when they have corrosion problems.
They had all sorts of things going on with those sensors. And they got quite cross with journalists who didn't say they were wonderful. Those were difficult times. Oh yeah. If you weren't relentlessly positive, you were invited to a special briefing, which is generally quite competent. So it wasn't a great time to be using those cameras.
That's so weird. Well, it looks where they are now.
Yeah. well. Yeah.
But so it's quite kind of interesting to see where we go from here. But I think that for those who are still using Micro Four Thirds platform, share your experience right now. Especially those who may have bought into some of the newer cameras. Whether it's going to be from Lumix or OM System. What's your thoughts on them? Whether you like them, whether you dislike them, or anything that you think that could be improved. Please do share your comments as well. We're going to talk a little bit about them. For me personally, there were people who did ask me about whether I have given up using Micro Four Thirds. No, I have not. I'm still the ambassador. I still use the OM System gear, but I also added both APS-C and full frame in recent years, just to satisfy different jobs that I'm doing. And also, like I mentioned a couple of years ago, that my agency now have upped the megapixel limits from 20 to 24, so I have to use something more than 20. And unfortunately, OM System still currently kind of topped out at 20, and I can't do anything about that. It's just not feasible. I know people are talking about, you can use upscaling, right? You can use software to upscale your images to 24s. That will do the job, right? That's fine if you're doing 1 or 2 images, but if you have like literally tens of thousands of images, which I do every year, that's not that's not a short time that I can do. It's not split second. I can just click a button. It does add time to it. So no, is the answer.
Well, also, not start a different conversation. The days of free image upscaling may not last forever.
Oh dear, you're starting a war now.
No, I'm just going to stop it there. I'm just saying this. Since Adobe, for those who don't know, is now charging credits for most generative AI procedures, which people may not be aware of. How long before people like Topaz Labs say, we'll do you a gigapixel upscaling. It'll cost you an AI credit. Buy this subscription. So I don't think AI is the way forward. I think if your agency says they want 24 megapixels, and if your clients say we want 40, whatever, then the easiest way to go about that is to do it at source. Just get the gear that does the job and not try and get around it or bodge it in some way. So it's often the client will say they want stuff, and that determines what you shoot with. In video, the client will often say, I wanted to shoot it with this. I wanted to shoot it with Canon cinema cameras.
Absolutely. I think that will be one of my biggest wish lists for home system camera is to have a high megapixel sensor so I can actually use my gear again for professional shoots. Not that I'm complaining about all the other gears I'm having, and in fact it's quite an experience just to try different gear, try different platform and different formats, and because of that now I could even more confident say about good things on Micro Four Third platform, why they shine in certain areas over the others, because now I have used literally all kinds of gear now, and so that makes my points even more valid in my own opinion anyway. So whenever I do reviews and talk about camera, I can talk good and bad about certain things, not only just based on specs but also by actual usability's point of view as a photographer who go out and shoot every single day. So that I think to me is a beneficial terms that I get to use all kinds of stuff now. Speaking of which, and another thing that I'm not to ask you guys is, what do you think about size? Obviously, this has always been a big debate about size or the benefit of Micro Four Third in terms of size. Because now you're saying, or many people have been saying that full frame cameras, APS sensor can get really, really small now. If it's really smaller, if not, really small to the point that you can compete with the smallest Micro Four Third cameras. One of the good examples that Rod and I also even just talked about it is just look at the APS-C. This is the XM5. So it is a very tiny camera if you're just looking at the size of it, which is probably smaller than the OM5, in terms of size-wise. But then again, you think about it hasn't got a grip, it hasn't got an EVF, so they really shrunk it down to the bare minimum to get the size on.
Well, and how many small lenses can you get for that camera?
Yeah.
So there's the 15 to 45 Fujinon kind of power zoom, which is quite a cheap lens, but it's effective, but it's quite cheap. There's the 27 and the new 23mm f2.8 primes.
Yeah.
Both of which they're a little bit noisy with the AF because there's just no room to put powerful AF actuators in.
Yeah.
After that, all the lenses get quite big quite quickly.
Yeah.
Big, and it's because of the format. So the cameras, you can make them as small as you like, but you're still stuck with the size of the lenses. So APS-C cameras can be as small, but the lenses no.
Yeah.
So you still end up with
it's quite interesting for people to compare, small camera like the XM5, maybe some of the smaller full frame cameras to Micro Four Third. But don't forget that there are also very, very small, tiny Micro Four Third cameras that basically discontinued years ago. But if you look at let's say the smallest ever Micro Four Third camera is the Lumix GM1, and then you can clearly see this size difference now. It's still by far a lot smaller, compared to the XM5. So you can't really say, XM5 is smaller than all the Micro Four Third cameras. As of 2025, yeah, you're probably right. It is smaller. But then again, it's not weather sealed, it's got no grip, it's got no EVF. You can have a lot of arguments based on that. So if you, let's say, use an OM5, for instance, you chop the EVF off, you don't have an EVF, you can probably approach, if not slightly smaller than the size of the XM5. You even throw out the IBIS, you can make it even smaller. So there are a lot of arguments you can actually go in with it. But would you want to live without IBIS these days or whatever? It's another thing that we could talk about all day long.
I think for me the size argument is a bit of a red herring. People only talk about the camera. It's a system you need to talk about, and there are only a couple of lenses you can put on a Micro Four Thirds or a full frame, compact full frame body that competes in size with MFT. All the other lenses change the equation completely. It's the size of the lenses that you're going to have to deal with in the end. And the size of the camera body, it's a distraction. It's not the whole story.
No,
and Fujifilm does make some nice little f2 primes.
Yes,
but they're bigger than the OM system ones, and they are rarity. And I think that if you go outside of Fujifilm, there aren't any other systems which offer the same combination of camera and lens size. Yes. But if we just imagine that the 20 megapixel stacked sensor is all we're going to get. Forget about getting a high resolution sensor. is not going to happen. If we imagine that, what should OM do?
Well, you know,
I mean, the thing is, don't you think OM system has to play to its strengths?
Yes.
We constantly talk about what they haven't got, we wish they could have.
Yeah.
I think we ought to look at what they have got that we would miss if we swapped.
Yes.
So I think one of the things is the overall system size. And I think the lenses are more important than the cameras in this.
Yes.
The other thing is that you and I, Jimmy, have used IBIS across all sorts of different systems.
We do.
The OM system IBIS, on paper, it's what, six to seven stops. It's no better than the others. But my experience has been, and perhaps yours has too, that you are actually going to get 6 or 7 stops of compensation. I've used cameras with a claimed 8 stops, and I reckon I've got 2. And I think the larger the format, the further short of the claimed compensation you actually get.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the strengths of MFT. The
Yes.
IBIS is of a different standard to what other makers of larger format cameras claim theirs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, now I have experience like, you know, other full frame cameras and APS-C cameras, and now I've tested with some of the newer Fujifilm cameras. I can confidently say that, you know, basically what Rod said is completely makes sense. You know, like if you're starting out from Micro Four Third, if all you've been doing is using Micro Four Third camera with IBIS, no matter which version, which generation it is, if you jump or move into either APS-C or full frame right now in 2025, the latest models, you'll be shocked, you know how ineffective the IBIS is, no matter how much they claim they are. Yes.
I mean, it's not that it doesn't work, but it's so much less reliable. You might get 7 stops, you might get 2. You don't really know what you're going to get. They still rely on quite good hand-holding skills.
Yes.
Whereas MFT, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah, you can basically have a 5 pints and you can still get a shot in a 2 second. So
that can help. 5 pints, at least you don't care anymore. It's 5 large espressos that do the damage.
Yeah. yes, absolutely. And so, you know, I would like to hear from you guys as well if you have experienced different formats, you know, some of the newer cameras, and tell me your experience about IBIS, because I think that this is also one thing that that I keep saying it in my videos, but not many people actually take notes of it or agree with me what I said about the stop. Because it's very easy for the camera manufacturer, where every time they launch a new camera, they claim 6, 7, they just put a number on it. Oh, I got 8 stops of stabilization, I got 5 stops. Yeah. Consumer doesn't really necessarily understand what these stops means, and then and also how effective they are. But it's all playing along, not just about sensor size, but also relating to the focal length as well. You know, the longer the focal length, the less effective the IBIS is. Yeah. I
had the EOS R6 Mark II in for review.
Yeah.
And they quote for that 8 stops of IBIS with the Canon RF 24-105 f4, which I also had. I tried it. I reckon with I'm not very good at hand holding. I reckon I might have got 2 stops, not 8. That's a big shortfall. I think somebody better at hand holding possibly would have got the 8 stops. But for me, this is one of the strengths of Micro Four Thirds you miss when you move up in sensor size.
Yeah.
The stabilization, you come to rely on it being absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
When you go up in sensor size, that changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's time to reflect on some of the comments between level in the chat room. I'm going to just pick up a couple of them, and then we're going to maybe have some conversation on these as well. So first of all, GWR say that 24 to 27 megapixel will be amazing for, you know, a flagship camera in the next generation. What is enough? You know, I just want to get some consensus here. You know, like what is enough for or what would you like to have in terms of megapixel resolution for Micro Four Third camera? I always say 20 is really good for me. I mean, apart from obviously work-related thing that I have to bump up to 24. But I think that, you know, based on what we are looking at the moment, to me, the sweet spot is still going to be 25, 26. I don't want anything more than that. I think that that is going to have a huge impact on all my workflows, not only just about processing time, but storage. The memory cards, doesn't hold as many photographs. When I go outside, for instance, then we have to buy more memory cards or bigger capacity for each of my shoots, and come back after I have to buy bigger storages because they will fill up quicker. Everything can have an impact on everything that I do. At the moment, I'm very comfortable. I think my whole workflow is evolving around between 16 to 24. That kind of like range that I'm working with for the past 12 years now. Would I want more? Potentially, but that's depending on what sort of thing I do as well. And probably Rod would say the same thing, unless I really want to print a lot bigger or really want to crop images, like majority of the time, I just simply think that anything over 30 is excessive in my case. Even you can see the photo behind me. This is the print from a 8-megapixel camera, so like it's not huge, but it's perfectly fine when you do printing, so that comes into the argument, how many megapixels do you need when it comes to your usage? What sort of thing would you want to do with that many megapixels?
And it also comes at a cost, because
yes,
you've got a dilemma at the moment. You have 20 megapixel stack sensor from OM, or you can have 25 megapixels not stacked from Panasonic. And keep in mind that a 5 megapixel increase in terms of horizontal width and vertical height of the image in pixels, it's tiny. It's about, I'm going to pluck a figure out there, I'm going to say somewhere below 10% extra width and height. Is that enough to really get worked up about? I mean, going from 20 to 40, that's significant. That's go over 40% wider and taller. But 20 to 25, that's a small increment to get worked up about. It's just that the number then appears to be on a par with other cameras. But don't forget that Nikon APS-C cameras have had 20 megapixels for years. Nobody's getting worked up about that. It's only us with MFT cameras that are getting worked up about it.
Well, the isn't the Canon flagship, the R1 is 20 as well, 20 something with the high speed camera. I think it's 20 megapixel as well, and that's a $7,000 camera.
the camera that this week I'm trying desperately not to buy because I want one is a Nikon DF, and that's 16.
Oh gosh, yes.
But they're now silly money. A year ago they were like 700 or 800. Now they're 1,500. It's ridiculous.
You should have told me, Rod. I saw a lot of really good condition secondhand when I was in Japan earlier this year.
How much were they?
They were range from £600 to £700 equivalent.
Oh, when are you going back?
I wish I want to go back. I want to go back soon, but yeah, there were a ton of the. When I went to the, I can't remember that shop. Yeah, loads of them.
You upset me now. You didn't think to call me and tell me. No, but so this is the thing. I think I know that a lot of people who are Micro Four Thirds fans want more resolution, but going from 20 to 25 is quite a small step. If the number makes you feel better, that's one thing, but it's not a substantial resolution increase by any means. I think it's just I think MFT owners would just be comforted by having 24 or 25 megapixels. The practical benefits, I think, honestly, are quite small.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I think for the years I've been using digital cameras and reviewing cameras, the highest ever resolution camera that I ever reviewed in this channel is the X-T5, which is 40 megapixel. And I have not reviewed anything higher than that because I never really asked for anything higher than that because I just don't think the point, for me at least, if you want to try a camera, I want to try something that I would normally use it on, which is portraits and things like that. And I don't really need 80, 60 megapixel, that sort of resolution. It's just way too much, not only for me, for my clients as well. I don't think they would like to hit huge file like that. Because what they ever print is just like 6x4 and 7x5. They don't need that such huge files for that.
you should have a chat with the Hasselblad or Fujifilm and get an X2D or a GFX. I've used those a few times. 100 megapixels isn't unmanageable by any means. It's quite nice, but it's not that it's unmanageable. It's just that it's unnecessary. When I reviewed them, the CMS for the website, you couldn't upload 100 megapixel file and to downsample it to about 25. Of course, then it's showing people sample images which are downsized JPEGs. It's not really that useful.
No.
But it's nice to have that resolution because you can just zoom in and it's spectacular.
And be all, whoa, so many details.
Whether you need it, that's another question.
Certainly it's interesting. You know, I'm pretty sure that, if I use a 100 megapixel camera, I will have that, kind of look and whenever I punch in and one-to-one on Lightroom. But then I think that effect, that kind of feeling novelty factor will kind of wear out very, very quickly. And
well, it does as well because there's never enough depth of field. Only the thing you focus on is sharp. Everything else is just slightly off. So you're only getting your true 100 megapixels worth on the things you focused on. Things in the background or foreground. You're better off.
Absolutely. I think you're right there. There's something that I want to bring up to the conversation as well for everyone to talk about is depth of field. And obviously Michael Forthert has always known to have a lot of depth of field. And so in the other word, that we don't have shallow depth of field as shallow as the larger format. Whether it's going to be advantage or disadvantage is really subjective depending on what sort of photography you do, what sort of thing you actually shoot with. So for my type of photography, yes, people do say that, you do portrait, right? So don't portrait one shallow depth of field when you blur out the background so you can highlight the subject. You have to pop and everything like that. Yes and no, and really depending on what sort of thing that what sort of portrait that I'm shooting. Majority, I would say 95 to 98% of my shoots are happening outdoor in nice location. And the clients, the last thing that the client want is that they can't see the background. They can't, they pay for that location. They pay me to photograph them in that location. The last thing they want is that they can't see where they are. They can't see where all that money goes. So they want me to include the background as much as I can. They don't mind subject separation, but as long as they can recognize the background, that means I have to control the depth of field very carefully. So if I use full frame, a lot of the time I will stop on the 3.5 and f4, and on the wider focal length. So when I do punch in, let's say I use a 85 or 150 equivalent, so in full frame terms, I will have to stop down to f5.6, f6.3, so they can still see the background on the back. And in Michael Forthert, on the other hand, you can imagine that it's got a 2 times equivalent kind of depth of field reduction. So that means that if I want to achieve 5.6 in full frame in terms of depth of field, I could still open up a 2.8 and still achieve the same look. So that means that I don't have to worry about too much. It's a lot more forgiving in that sense. And if we do an exposure triangle calculation, then you can quickly see that let's say if I in a certain given lighting situation, shooting a 5.6 aperture with a ISO 400, for instance, that I could easily do an ISO 200, in the Michael Forthert term, while opening up 2.8, getting the same depth of field look. So this is always the practical calculations that I have. I think also beneficial for my type of photography, for instance. And even more so when I do travel and street photography. I don't know how many of you do like to do very deep depth of field street photography, which I kind of get used to when I was growing up. I stop at f8 and I use zone focus a lot, so I'm quite used to that very basically everything in focus look. I want the storytelling. I want to see what everybody does. So to achieve that, and Michael Forthert is very easy. I can even shoot at f4, f3.5, with still gaining everything in focus, and that's really, really handy for me to do street photography and travel, for instance. And that is the beauty of the system. And on the other hand, if I use even APS-C, I will have to bump the ISO up and to stop down the lens to get the equivalent look. But at the same time, I'm starting to lose a little bit of the benefits of having larger sensor, for instance, when it comes to ISO performances. So these are things that may not necessarily come across to people as benefit, but things do change. Now on the other side now is that when you do shoot at nighttime or low light situation, you will find that yes, Michael Forthert do suffer And so if you have to, even when you shoot wide open, but you have to bump up the ISO for, I know, 1600, 2000, you will find a benefit having a full frame or even medium format. You know, when you bumped up to 1600, 2000 ISO in the full frame camera, it is a lot better. You know, I have to say that. I'm not trying to lie to you guys. You know, if you like for like, without any processing, for instance, when I say processing, let's say using AI noise reduction software like DxO or Topaz, you will see the differences between the full frame sensor and the micro four thirds sensor.
I think so, but I think it's not necessarily helpful to do a like for like comparison because the situations are not the same. So I've done a lot of photography inside quite dark buildings.
Yeah.
And it's not simply a case of comparing ISOs because with MFT, I can shoot handheld at say 15th.
Yeah.
Whereas on my EOS R8, which doesn't have IBIS, and the lens IS is variable, I might have to shoot at a 60th. So my OM system has probably got a 3-stop advantage in stabilization, which I can offset against ISO. And the other thing is the indoors, very often depth of field is a factor.
Yeah. Yes.
Photographing something with depth, you want it all sharp. If you do that on full frame, you're going to have to use a very small aperture, maybe f11.
Yeah.
On MFT, you can use f5.6. You've got another 2-stop advantage in light. So it's perfectly correct to say, let's say ISO 6400, a full frame camera will give you a lot less noise, and it will. But that you will not be using ISO 6400 on both cameras because MFT has some innate advantages of its own to offset that. So I would use slower shutter speeds and wider apertures, and then you find yourself in the same ballpark all over again. So it's not quite as simple as comparing ISO and noise.
No,
because there's too many other factors.
Absolutely. I mean, I've done a video on this very topic a couple of years ago now. It's called The Merit of Micro Four Thirds. You guys should check it out. And because I actually do a side-by-side comparison, because that video is based on a real wedding that I photographed. And my second shooter, my second assistant, he was using the Sony full-frame camera, and I'm using the Micro Four Thirds OM1 at the time. And so I compare the images from both cameras, you know, like the setting that he did to achieve the same depth of field, because we needed more depth of field to cover the guests, you know, in the room and everything like that. He was constantly shooting at like 12,800 ISO because it's natural light. We don't want to use flash. So I was shooting at 3,200, and because I can shoot slower shutter speed, like what Rod said, but at the same time I can open up the aperture to compensate that. But if you look at those files. But when you look at the images side by side, you clearly see that there isn't much of a difference because he's shooting at ultra high ISO and I'm shooting at just a normal high ISO. So when you compare them, I still have to like denoise them, both of them, because you will see noise in both images. So the work is the same, but that shows the differences between two different platforms. The benefits of having more depth of field in some cases. I know people may sometimes want to isolate subjects, maybe certain wildlife. If you want to really just have the animal in the picture when everything is blur, then you probably want to find a bigger format cameras to do that.
Yeah, I think you might, but I think focal length is probably just as big a factor. So if you're shooting with a long focal length lens, you're going to get that separation on any format.
Yeah,
you don't have to have full frame to do it. If you're using something like even something fairly modest like the OM 40 to 150 f4.
Yeah.
If you're at 150 millimeters, you're going to have separation at any aperture.
Yeah. Sure.
So it's tied in a lot to focal length, and it's true that MFT has less defocusing for a given aperture.
Yeah.
But if you can compensate with the longer focal length and end up in the same place, I mean, you have to compromise, but you can end up the same outcome just by adapting how you shoot.
Absolutely.
I found the numbers, by the way, just to return to the megapixel thing. I saw a comment earlier that the 25 megapixels might be popular for wildlife because it gave you more cropping room.
Right.
I did say that I didn't think 20 to 25 megapixels was a big jump. So I've looked up the numbers. So in OM1, 20 megapixels, the images are 5,184 pixels wide. With GH7, which is 25 megapixels, you get another 600 pixels in width. That's all. It's a small change in actual image size. You will gain a little extra cropping room, but it's a lot less than the 5 megapixel jump might make you believe, because that's the whole area. It's not one single dimension. So I think 25 megapixels, it's a number that would keep us happy. It's more reassuring, but its practical benefit I think is very small.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I guess that any sort of jump in resolutions in a big way is actually have a negative impact on the camera makers themselves, especially those have a long line of legacy lenses, because some of them may not be like designed and optimized for high resolution shootings. You know very well that, Rod, Fujifilm has a lot of lenses, but a lot of them are.
I'm trying not to bring this up all over again. But I was disappointed with my X-T5 because it revealed the limitations of most Fujinon lenses. Because there's too much of a mismatch between what the sensor can do and what the lenses can do. And I think that could happen as well with Micro Four Thirds, because lens resolution isn't scalable. There are very, very precise limits on the resolution that a lens can resolve. And the more you blow it up from a smaller sensor, the more you're going to reveal its flaws. It's the same with analog lenses and film. That's why a bigger negative size always gave you better sharpness than a smaller one, because it is a lower degree of enlargement. So I think we had to be careful what we wish for. And I think we had to be realistic about the physics of sensors and lenses. And if we really do want these high resolutions, I don't think this is something MFT will ever be good at. We should focus on what it is good at rather than what it's
enjoy
not.
It. And enjoy
it.
But just before we move on to the next topic, just one last thing about sensor, because Robert actually mentioned something here. So as I understand, the area of the Micro Four Thirds sensor is a quarter size of the full frame, and does that mean that a 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds is equivalent to an 80 megapixel full frame sensor?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why the 100 megapixel full frame sensor that you see right now is equivalent to 25.
Or say the other way around, that Panasonic's 25 megapixel MFT sensor equates to 100 megapixels full frame, which is a bit of a squeeze.
Yes.
So I think 20 megapixels is already a higher pixel density than larger format sensors. Not Fujifilm's, but certainly a higher pixel density than anything in full frame.
And I know that we talked about this probably a couple of years ago now. I may not have talked about it with you, Rod, but a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, Sharp, the consumer electronic company Sharp in Japan, they had the prototype Micro Four Thirds 8K video camera showcase in Photokinas, right?
That's interesting.
So that sensor is a 30 plus megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor. And they never make it into reality. I think they gave up on the project, whether it's for commercial reasons, financial reasons, I don't know. But I know that it's abandoned now. But that was available, and it was a very high megapixel density sensor.
I suspect that they just couldn't make it work. They probably couldn't make it deliver a balance of image quality and properties that people would buy into. That would be my guess. I do vaguely remember that, but it's one of those cameras that if they could have made it work, I think they would have done. And the fact that it never happened, I think, is probably significant.
I think they tried, and but certainly showcased that there is a possibility, perhaps technology at the time wasn't ready. And if you use the same equation again, a 30 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor, that means it's going to be 120 megapixel full frame sensor, you know, based on the pixel density. It's going to be significant, you know, and we don't see that kind of high resolution even in full frame at the moment. So most of the high resolution full frame cameras are 60 megapixel at the moment, you know, and at least for commercial use. I mean, like from consumer use. Commercially, you may see some high megapixel sensors for astro and stuff like that, for monitoring and satellite imageries and things like that. But you're not going to see that in our day-to-day cameras. But yeah, it did exist.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now, 2020, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the specifications were, but for all we know, it had dreadful readout speeds.
Yeah.
And rolling shutter that was just impossible to live with. Or other problems, maybe it overheated. Because it doesn't look like the body would have much of a heat sink.
It could be a multiple thing, because 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, I did speak to one of the Olympus, back then, Olympus representative. That was before my my ambassadorship started. So I just have a general chat with them, you know, about, you know, the sensor developments, whether we are going to ever see a high resolution sensor. And at the time, they told me the engineer has been testing all kinds of sensor. That's what he told me. He's been testing all kinds of sensor. They said that based on the performance ratio, you know, and the 16 to 20 is still optimal for Micro Four Thirds. They've tried others, and but they couldn't manage the heat properly. They couldn't manage the noise properly, and like you said already, the readout speed was relatively slow. So that means that that will render the if you use electronic shutter mode, it's not feasible because there's so much shake and like any sort of jelly effect. So if you take a still, if you move the camera a little bit, you're gonna see a little bit wobbly images there. So it's not practical.
I mean,
so
a video camera where you can't do any camera movements, even a slow pan, that would be good.
So so they did try. From what I understand, they just so far I think they find the best compromise, the best optimal resolution is kind of around about 20 at the moment.
Yeah, and I know we're all very loyal towards Micro Four Thirds, but I would say if any of us here do actually need more resolution, then I think you have to look at another system. I think just to get the same balance of performance. But you just have to weigh up what you need against what's possible.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I think as well, you know, it's this thing. Panasonic's got 25 megapixels unstacked. Our own system has got 20 megapixels stacked. Neither of them offer you both. So you've already got to decide.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about Micro Four Thirds is that you can buy both bodies, right? One Panasonic and one own system, depending on the situation. They use whatever you want. That's the beauty of it. Leisurely Place actually say that Micro Four Thirds has been great for travel, especially with lenses.
Yeah, of course.
I think so. I mean that echoes everything we just said, right?
The most extraordinary travel lens of all is the one that's probably most ignored, and that's the 14 to 42 EZ lens or EZ lens. It's not a bad lens, but there is no other lens like it. I know the Panasonic 12 to 32.
It's this one here. It's this one.
Yeah. I've got that on my Pen F, and I can put it in a jacket pocket.
Yeah,
it's not. It's a pretty decent lens, actually.
It is. It is a very decent lens. I mean, like it folds down automatically. It does expand when you power it on, but then it's really cool.
The zoom never goes in where I think it will. I've had this lens for years, and it still seems to me to go the wrong way. But you know, that's a minor point. There are no other formats where you've got a lens of this range, of this size, that's quite good. I mean, Sony has it 16 to 50 for its APS-C cameras. That's not a very nice lens. That's not a great lens.
No, I mean, I have to say, you know, like system size. That's we always been talking about, not camera size, but system size. It's important. And I mean, even for my daily work, when I go and shoot, you know, I carry obviously a body and 2 to 3 lenses, depending on what I'm shooting with. I now use a slightly bigger system because, like I mentioned about the megapixel thing that I have, so I have to use other system. I do miss the weight and the size for my Micro Four Thirds setup, because now I have to get the equivalent that I had before for full frame, and they are much bigger, much heavier. So now my bag, instead of carrying a smaller shoulder bag, I have to use a medium to large shoulder bag just to carry the same thing, and it's not fun. If you think about like for like, I'm actually carrying about 50% more weight at the moment on a daily basis, which is, not something you want when you're getting older, right? You want something lighter when you got older.
Did I tell you about my sprained thumb?
No.
I have a persistent sprain on my left thumb. So heavy camera gear, it's not very comfortable. But like you say, when you get old, this is what happens.
Absolutely. And also, like what Leslie Pace is saying, and even like for my professional stuff, I'm a useful frame, but every time I go travel, every time I go away with family or anything like that, it's always going to be Micro Four Thirds. I either take the OM3 or the OM5 because they're much smaller, much lighter, and it does everything I need for everything, for that kind of situation. And they're both weather sealed.
I think as well, if you were to buy an OM5 Mark II 10 years from now, it would probably be just as effective as a travel camera as it is today. I don't see things changing in the video and stills photography market so much. That wouldn't be true. I'm using cameras today, launched 10 years ago. They're fine. And I think that will continue. So though we all want progress, I'm not convinced it's essential. We just have to change. We just have to change our mindset. So I see. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, to put it another way, like instead of seeing progress in camera development, I'd rather see progress in my photography. That would be my take. That would be my take. Yes.
So I've got another question, which perhaps you can answer for me, Jimmy. Is the new quad pixel AF definitely actually better? Because I've had more misses with that than I used to get with the old system.
Yes. I will have to agree and disagree, because depending on what sort of thing you're shooting, and I do find that if I'm shooting just normally on, let's say, non-human stuff, I find it to be very, very good, to be a lot better than the older system. But for some reason, because I shoot portrait, so I can notice the difference straight away, that yes, the older system actually does a better job in focusing and picking out the subject, even in backlit situation. And I find that the new quad Bayer is struggling a little bit.
I never had any trouble with backlighting until you mentioned it in one of our chats, and then it started. And every time I'm trying to shoot something backlit, every now and then it go haywire. Yes, I do like the smaller target size, because that's one of the things with the old system. The AF targets are quite big, and it's difficult to be precise. But then on a new camera, there you've got a smaller AF target. It can be quite hard to see. I'm never happy. Let's face it.
So I'm gonna continue working with OM to let them aware of the at least my concern for my type of shooting, and because now I shoot a lot of different systems, compare them side by side when I shoot portraits in all kinds of lighting situation. I do find that at least for shooting humans and faces, I do find that so far, let me kind of rank them a little bit. I think actually the 26 megapixel Fujifilm cameras are very good when it comes to shooting portrait. I find it to have a high hit rate than even the 40 megapixel X-T5 for some reasons. Even though it has the same processor, but the different sensor, I don't know, for some reason it somehow actually performs better. And because I shot the X-T5, and I find that it also behaves very similar to the OM3 or the OM1 as well. Like, when it comes to backlit situation, it has a lot of misses. But not the XM5.
I had random focus failures with my X-T5.
Yeah.
It wasn't a particular lens, it was all lenses, and it wasn't particular lighting. It was random. That was very bothersome.
Yes.
I hadn't had that with older Fujifilm. cameras.
So
So yeah.
yeah,
So I've had that thing, but yeah, I'm not sure about it. I think the quad pixel AF technically is amazing, but I'm not quite sure it's there yet with its actual day-to-day reliability.
I think they need to rework the AF algorithm to optimize for the sensor. I think, from what I understand, that they originally, when the OM1 first came out, they simply just put the AF from the EM1 Mark III into the OM1 system, which, of course, it didn't work quite well because the architecture is very different. So they retuned it and they improved it with the firmware update, which did a better job. But I think that at least for humans detection, it's still not as good as the EM1 Mark III or the EM1X for that matter.
Right.
So, but funny enough, because the OM1 Mark I and Mark II actually still using the old system. So the OM1 Mark II, even though it has new interface for the menus, but then the underlying technology obviously is still based on the older system. So that means that the OM5 Mark II may potentially even better for portrait shoots than the newer camera.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Yeah. You just have to choose the tool that works the best, don't you? I see a comment from George Mooring who's saying, I've heard we have to double MOT aperture to equate it to full frame. It's exactly right. So with, it depends on how you ask the question, but f4 on MFT gives you the same depth of field as f8 on full frame, 2 aperture stops.
Yeah.
So if you want the same depth of field on full frame, you're going to have to go down 2 stops in aperture. This is why it's dangerous just to compare ISO performance, because you're also changing other settings.
But don't get confused with the light gathering capabilities, because an f2.8 is still an f2.8. It's just the equivalent depth of field look is different in different platforms.
So what has confused some people in the past has been that the f8 aperture on MFT is much smaller than f8 on a full frame camera, and they're saying, oh, it's not f8 then, it's f16. That's wrong, because it's illuminating a smaller area. So the illumination on the sensor at f8 is identical on both Micro Four Thirds, APS-C, and full frame. There's no kind of equivalence of exposure. That people have complained about before. That's not the case at all. It's a smaller sensor getting the same amount of illumination per unit area. So it's only depth of field where you get this change, the change in the equivalent values. It's nothing to do with exposure.
No, absolutely. And then I think George come on to say more, I'm disappointed that my EM5 Mark II shutter is dying after 4 years. You must be shooting a heck a lot, man. to kill a sensor. I have my EM1 Mark II, and of course that is a flagship camera. I know the physical shutter has a higher shutter actuation limit or life, but that camera lasts well over 200 clicks and is still working.
200,000.
200,000 actuations and still working. And most of my lower end cameras, I mean, I have some of the EM5, older EM5, they have about 50, 60,000, and they seems to be fine. I haven't got any problem whatsoever when it comes to the actual shutter failure, and unless you changing lenses, somehow sand getting into it, something getting into it, kind of like grinding the gear, is unlikely the shutter is going to fail like this.
Oh, I know what I was going to mention.
Yep.
Sorry, going slightly off topic. I think George is probably unlucky with cameras. I've always been very lucky. Mine never break down. Maybe George is having all my bad luck. I don't know. But
it could be George.
You know how Olympus in the early days was always going on about its supersonic wave filter.
Yes.
And I, like probably most people, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Everyone does that. Get over it. Well, I also shoot with the Sony A7 II. And don't mention sensor dust, please, to me, because it is a constant battle. It does not have an effective sensor cleaning system.
No.
I came back from Cornwall a couple of weeks ago, and there were blobs on so many of my pictures, and hairs like fibers. I've never seen a fiber on my MFT sensors.
Is it from your dog licking it?
I've no idea.
There you go. That's it. There it is.
I think there must be some kind of strange suction on those cameras when you take a lens off. But honestly, my Sony cameras have been awful for dust.
Yeah.
And it's something I've just forgotten about with MFT. Well, so don't you have to keep these things in mind.
Another thing that you're right. Another thing that we could take it for granted, not just IBIS, is the sensor in the sensor thing as well. You're very right. You know, now I use my Nikon full frame Nikon ZF for pro shoots, and sometimes the Fujifilm as well. Not so much about the Fujifilm, but the Nikon does have dust on it, and I have to constantly clean it. And the whole last 8 years, 9 years, I've been using Micro Four Third in the field, changing lenses in all sorts of conditions, rain, dusty, whatever, you name it. And I never had a dust spot on it. Really, I'm not joking. I never actually had a dust spot on it.
You start taking it for granted, don't you? And then when you use another camera and you get dust, you think, what the hell?
Yeah,
this is outrageous.
I thought, like many of you may not understand my history, and but I moved from Canon full frame DSLRs to Leica and then to Micro Four Third, and it's only until a year and a half ago I got my full frame camera back, which is a Nikon ZF, as a tool and not testing cameras. So I started to use it every single day. And I thought, after all these years, the sensor dust shouldn't be a problem, because you keep hearing, sensor, all the new camera now has sensor cleaning, features, and I thought, okay, they will be as good as the Micro Four Third, right? Nope, that I can tell you that right now, it's not.
I've got another strange dust spot story as well from my Canon system. I've got a Canon 15-32.
Yeah.
And on the Canon RF mount, if you get really wide lenses, the rear elements can be very close to the sensor.
Yeah.
So this is not something I've ever encountered before. I had a small bit of debris, like a moderately a dust spot or a tiny spot of grit on the rear element of the lens, and it showed up in the photographs.
Yeah.
I've never had that before. That was irritating, because now it's made me paranoid about when I put a lens on, is there any dust on the back element? So that's something I've not had before. But it's sensor spots. I take it for granted. It's not a thing I even have to think about with MFT.
No.
Other systems that I like Capture One, because it has an AI dust removal button.
Ah, cool.
And it'll find and eliminate I'd say 9 spots out of 10, unless they're particularly massive.
It doesn't cost you $1 every time, right?
Not yet. And it's all done locally, not in the cloud.
Oh dear me.
I don't think even Capture One could charge you for something your own computer's doing.
No. Who's Serafin also mentioned about that third OM5 now shutter dying. So what's happening here? Interesting. I need to report that back to OM System about this, and whether they have huge cases of these. But as far as I know, that is uncommon. And but if you're still within warranty, because OM5 is still relatively new, if you register with OM System, I think you've got about 3 to 5 years warranty. So it's better, have them look at and why, because I have used them a lot, and I haven't experienced anything like that yet. And I shoot majority of the time mechanical. I don't use electronic shutters unless it's necessary. I'm just more traditional guy. I still like to hear it and feel the click, actually, than feel nothing at all.
It's like when I get out my old Nikon D800 SLR.
You like the flap.
Shutters, it's like somebody slamming the door.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes we just like, just like you want to hear the engine of the car, then like this electric wheel is coming up, right?
I read an interesting comment. I think it's about one of these guys on YouTube, was for saying that very often the model liked to hear the shutter because then they knew
when to turn, right?
What expression they had when the shutter fired. They knew whether the timing was right and had the right face on. So that's quite interesting.
It is.
Electronic silent shutters are very disconcerting.
Yeah.
Because you're never quite sure they're doing anything. Did I press the button? Is anything happening? Have I got the shots?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's interesting. Well, I got Mark here. Mark also said, I'm a broken record. Make a new Pen F, please. Okay, that's all about the new something with Wish now, right? You know, and my OM3 has somehow made me want even more.
Well, I would agree, but I thought about this earlier. I would suggest something slightly different. We can see how popular vlogging cameras are. I mean, even if we don't ourselves like them. So there's the XM5, Nikon's got the Z30, Canon's got the, what do they call it? R50R or something like that. EOS 50R, like a vlogging version of its little camera. They're popular things. What if OM System was to revive, say, the OM, not the OM, the EP7 design, and just beef up the video? But then this is another problem, isn't it, for OM System, the video?
Yeah,
because it's still not there with what everybody else is doing. It seems so close. There doesn't seem any technical reason why the OM camera's video features can't be as good as rival models.
No,
but they seem to be half a step behind all the time.
Yeah, when it comes to video, that's not something that I would be praising. You know, when it comes to the video features of the OM system or previously Olympus cameras. Yet, you know, I would also say that it's quite easy to overlook what you actually need to make videos. We all want it. Oh, we want 6K open gate. We all want 8K 30p. We all want 4K 120 240. It's very easy to throw numbers on features, but how often do you do that? Do you really actually make use of these features? I mean, I wouldn't say that I would shoot 4K 120 every single day on every clip that I do. Definitely not, because not only is wasting a lot of memory, but also at the same time it drains the battery and also overheating the sensors at the same time. And don't forget that when the higher the speed, it actually is slightly lower quality. I don't know if anyone actually know that. So if you increase the frame rate, you actually see the image quality being degraded every single step. So if you go faster from 50 to 100 to 120 to 200, you see progressively worse every single time you put up the speed.
Is that because there's more compression?
It's more compression because
to keep the bit rate manageable.
Yes, absolutely, and you can't shoot high bit rate either. When you shoot ultra high speed. Yeah. So this is to do with the size as well.
So as well, if you're going to shoot, if you want to shoot 8K 60 or 4K 120 or whatever, you're probably going to have to shoot it in long GOP, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're getting a higher form of compression.
Yeah.
To get the higher frame rates, which is another factor. But I personally, I think if OM System could develop its subject tracking to the point where it was as good as rival makers.
Yeah.
And if it offered the same combination of video frame rates and resolutions, and I think the OM3 and OM1 do.
Yeah.
They could just pitch it more effectively as a hybrid camera, and you could then use that rather nice EP7 body.
Yeah.
Maybe put in the stacked sensor.
Yeah.
It'd make it more expensive, but then you could have a very capable vlogging camera, because they're selling by the truckload, whether we approve of them or not. They're very popular. They're a very popular type of camera.
They are. I mean, I don't know whether it's the whole kind of retro things going around at the moment. This retro bug that is kind of creating this inflation in all sorts of retro styling cameras. Because I was actually looking at the older EPL 8 and also the EP5 last couple of days. And I don't know, I just wanted one. I thought they're going to cost me like 150 pounds. No, both of these are like going for 350 for a decent one. They're not cheap. When they were first launched, about 500 quid. So all these years is holding on to values at the moment.
Last year I bought a Fujifilm X-T1 from MPB for £284, which I thought was good. If I wanted it this year, it'll be 409. The camera, this is a 10-year-old camera, another year older, and like 30% more expensive.
Yeah.
It's just the way the market's going. The used market is going.
It is crazy. I mean, I last year I bought the Epson RD1, the rangefinder camera, and because there at the time when I was searching for it, there was no good clean example in the UK. I mean, there were some available, but most of them were well used, scratched up. God knows what's happening to the shutter or how many shutter actuation it has, because these are old school stuff. You know, like I just want it to be a little bit better, that can last a little bit longer. If I buy a well used example, it could only last me for a year or two before it completely die out, and at the moment there's no parts to repair them, so that means I'll be throwing my money away. So rather than spending money in the UK and I actually import one from Japan, which is I found one extremely mint example, original box, batteries and everything like that. Looks to me is very low use example, so I bought that. And I remember that camera when it first came out is retail for about I think about £1,000, £1,200 at the time, and for
a clean lot at the time.
Yeah, and for now, you can't get a clean one for less than £2,000, you know, and
it's incredible.
It's basically Leica money, and in some cases, actually, it's more expensive than the Leica M8 if you look at it, and then which is basically equivalent of it. It came out around about the same time.
Yeah, but at least it's not common like the Leica.
It is no, it's not common at all, and they still have the film winder, you know, like that everybody's craving at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is a real collector's kit. I mean, so like the Pen F now, a good one is just under 1,000.
Yeah.
And they hardly cost that when they were new.
No.
If you want, a year or so ago, I would have recommended somebody looking for like an everyday carry for just blogging or whatever. I would have suggested a pen, but they're silly money now.
Well,
as you say.
To be honest, you know, and I remember years ago, and when Olympus discontinuing the Pen F, I saw that on their website they were on sale for like $650. You know, at one point, brand new. No. I didn't even buy it. I thought I should have bought two at the time.
you only find out afterwards, don't you?
Yeah,
you only find out afterwards.
Yeah, because I already have one. You know, I thought, oh, you know, what the heck? You know, I don't need another one. God knows, gone up like this.
the used market is driven by fashion, for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, just looking now, Jimmy, pens aren't too bad. So you could get an EPL9 for like just over 300.
Yes, EPL9 is, but EPL8 is actually still holding on quite well. The reason I like the EPL8,
it's a nicer body, isn't it? It's a nicer design.
Not only that, for me, the EPL8 was full metal, not the EPL9 and 10, which is plastic. You know, the EPL8 was actually a metal camera.
I never knew that. How interesting.
Yes.
How interesting.
So that's why I wanted one, and because it still look kind of good, and then it has the accessory port, and I can actually buy an electronic viewfinder on this to do vertical shooting if you want. So I'm kind of tempted for that. It would be quite cool for some street photography. You want to be a little bit more discreet, just looking down on the viewfinder instead of looking straight up.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, okay. So that's my thoughts anyway. I think perhaps OM System should, when the EM10 finally bites the dust.
Yes.
I think perhaps the OM10 ought to be a kind of rectangular vlog style camera with the stacked sensor.
A bar of soap.
Because the video, the bar of soap design, the video capabilities of the new sensor are pretty good. I mean, I don't think they're as good as rivals, but good enough, I would have thought.
Yeah. And I just scroll back to one of the comments much earlier, and when I first asked about, do you guys know any other manufacturer using Micro Four Thirds sensor, and I completely forgot, and you're quite right. I'm trying to bring up that comment if I can find it somewhere. That the other manufacturer that now uses Micro Four Thirds sensor is DJI. Yes, their drone uses DJI, use Micro Four Thirds sensor. Even the latest flagship, the Mavic 4, is using the presumably the same sensor as the GX7 and the G9 Mark II, the 25 megapixel. Using quad pixel technologies and do sensor shifting, you can get 100 megapixel stills. And so that is an interesting manufacturer as well. And I think that sensor is going to remain in DJI's catalog for some time because unless you go for the true top-end flagship drone, which the Inspire series, which now they're using DL mount now. Remember the old days, they can actually mount Micro Four Thirds lens on the Inspire drones. I don't know if you remember that. So at the time, the 12 and the 15 or the 17 millimeter lenses were very common lenses bought by drone flyers for that Inspire drones. You can mount it on them, and but now they changed that completely. So they don't use Micro Four Thirds mounts anymore. They use a DL mount. So that is a new shift to a completely different system, because that is also something that they can use on their new cinema cameras. You know, the Ronin. So that would be quite interesting.
Yeah. I think I think it was a shame that DJI swapped with so much. I can see why they did it, just because DJI likes its systems to be quite close, doesn't it? Like if you've got to have a DJI mic to go with your Pocket 3 or your DJI Action, I think you do. You have to have the DJI one. You can't just buy any wireless mic.
No.
So they like to pull people in tight.
they do. But then who doesn't want a closed system? You know, where they can control. You know, and
of course,
you know, if they have the ability to do it, and that will be the best for the company's interest. And I don't know, everyone knows that. I think most people have received a newsletter from DJI today. For those who subscribe to their system, they are going to launch their very first 360 cameras at the end of the month. And
I saw that teaser. It is pretty obviously a 360 camera.
Yeah, I've been told that it is. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It looks
like an Insta360 ripoff.
Yeah, but what I'm interesting is the concept is not new. We all tried it, we all seen it, we all experienced it. It's how they can integrate everything they already have. Like the mic you just said, you know, the mic is going to be phenomenal because I'm pretty certain they're going to have an inbuilt transmitter and receiver, so they can actually plug in any current mic 2 and mic mini directly to the 360 camera. Make it instant vlogging camera if you want to use that as a vlogging camera. Because I used the Insta360 X5 to do that. And then and also DJI's famous image processing. I think that they are doing a great job for the image processing side of it, whether they're using AI or not. The action cameras, the Pocket 3 cameras, they are tiny sensors, but they work. They perform so well that it looks like they're coming from bigger cameras.
Pocket 3 is a 1-inch sensor.
Yes,
it's a proper sensor. Sony makes vlogging cameras with 1-inch sensors, and Canon is still selling power shots at ridiculously inflated prices with 1-inch sensors. So I think the Pocket 3 is quite something. So I've got a Pocket 3 rival here.
I've seen that before. It's got a huge screen.
Before?
No. I've seen that on the advert before. Yeah.
It rotates.
It's a massive screen, that is.
It is. It's very good. It's very effective. The only thing is the camera is just a 1/2.3-inch camera.
Right.
It's a very small sensor. Its quality is all right, and the stabilization is pretty good. So it's under the Agfa Photo brand. It's still 300 quid, but it's a good screen size. Yeah. But this is one of the things I think that System is competing against for video, not just other brands, but all mirrorless cameras are competing with handheld products like this, which are getting better.
Yeah.
Practically overnight. The rate of development of these handheld video cameras is remarkable.
this is another one reason that why OM system will not concentrate on video, because I think it's a wasting effort, because you can see these suffering from all other manufacturers. All their so-called vlogging cameras are suffering because no one's buying them, and everyone who wants to vlog, they just buy the DJI Pocket 3 and other supplementary cameras, the 360s and the little tiny Insta pillet, like kind of like a pill size camera.
I know, yeah, the Go 2.
The Go, yeah.
But you could, for the cost of a relatively ordinary vlogging camera, you could get a 360 camera and a gimbal camera.
Yes.
And both of them will be easier to use, because they limit the choices.
Yep.
So I think where camera makers are going wrong is they're giving you too many choices.
Yes.
Resolution, frame rate, codec, bit depth, log profiles. Smaller devices like DJIs and Insta360s, they just say, do you want 4K 60 or 4K 30? And when you've chosen it, you never bother to look at it again. It's just simple.
I mean, I think that was exactly the point, that we talked about earlier, and I know that OM system has always been a bit behind compared to rival companies when it comes to video specs and stuff. But you see the point, I think, like now with the DJI Pocket 3, for instance, even though it's capable of doing a lot of stuff, there's a lot of setting within that you can fine tune whatever you want. But I will guarantee that 95% of people who buy the Pocket 3 simply just want to flip the screen and hit the record button without setting anything.
The thing is that with a camera like that, you can set it to pan follow mode.
Yep.
Your horizon never tilts.
Yep.
Everything stays flat and level wherever you point your gimbal. You can't do that with a mirrorless camera.
No.
Unless you put that camera on a gimbal, but then it's 5 times the size.
Yeah, so like the complicated video cameras that we see on the market today, you can choose codecs, you can choose compression, you can choose frame rate, you can choose all sorts of stuff. I think they're only useful for those professional or very serious enthusiasts, but for most people, day-to-day mum and dad, like they would not care about all this stuff, to be honest. Even though that when they buy the camera, they look at the spec sheet. Oh, maybe I need that. But when it comes to reality, you probably wouldn't do that. And all you really want to take the camera out, turn it on, and hit the record button.
So a couple of questions for you then. So you think OM system is just not getting into that fight because they don't think it's worth it? And also, I think so. You're saying about mum and dad just wanting to shoot video.
Yep.
I think you're right, and I think then you could just take out an OM5, Mark 1 or Mark 2, just stick it on 4K 30. Don't worry about color grading. Don't worry about anything else. Just film, and the stuff you get straight from the camera is going to be fine for that kind of use. So
absolutely,
maybe
right. And that's why I think that that's the reason why the DJI Pocket 3 has overtaken literally everything when it comes to consumer videoing. Even the sales report from Japan last year clearly seen that. The DJI Pocket 3 has completely wiped the market, and it overtook the #1 spot that was previously held by Panasonic and for a number of years when it comes to consumer videoing. So that is gone. Panasonic is now #2 and Sony #3. So like it's gone. The video market has been overtaken by DJI in 1 year when Pocket 3 came out. It shows that what consumer actually want and need, and simple as that. They want a simple device. It's easy to carry. Hit the switch, record. You got beautiful images. You don't have to do much to it.
And I think the YouTube vlogging industry is probably now rather larger than the professional filmmaking industry. If you ignore Hollywood and just talk about kind of filmmaking studios, I would have thought that market is probably smaller now than the vlogging influencer amateur market. Yeah. So you can see. So I don't know. You think the future of hybrid cameras is weak?
Yeah.
You do? Is that what you think?
I think so.
You think so? or my take on it would be, I think camera makers need to stop selling hybrid cameras. So remember made for video and one made for stills.
Remember we talked about this. I always think the hybrid word is a nonsense. There's no such thing as hybrid. No.
You're paying twice for one camera.
Yeah. The thing is, the word hybrid is supposed to work in a way that it complements each other, right? Just like a hybrid car. The whole thing about hybrid cars is improving efficiencies, right? It's nothing about trying to replace each other. If you want to go electric, you buy an electric car. If you want to stick with the petrol, you can have better petrol. But if you want better economy while sticking with petrol, you got a hybrid. But hybrid photography, hybrid camera doesn't really make sense to me because it doesn't really complement each other, because video is very different to stills. They're totally different profession, totally different skill sets. So you can't really mix the two together. That's my take anyway.
No, I agree. I agree completely, and I think the camera makers have done a good job to kid people that it can. Hybrid cameras can work, but.
Well, this side to us screen. Hello, good morning. You just came in, and bring back the camcorder. Camcorder is actually coming back. You know that they are actually coming back. For those who don't know,
Panasonic is falling over its own feet trying to get its camcorders back out there.
Yeah.
People get it. The form factor of a camcorder is much better suited to video than a regular camera. It's just the way you hold it and where the ports are and where you look is much more ergonomic.
Yes, and to be honest, even back in the days, the AF and the camcorder is actually quite good, even in the older camcorders.
I think it's helped by the smaller sensor. You probably rather not have a smaller sensor, but for video, the sensor size is not, I don't think, as significant as it is for stills.
No, because everything's moving.
Everything's moving, and the resolution you're watching the thing at is not as high.
Yeah.
And a smaller sensor is more forgiving. The reason we've got such complicated AF systems in full frame cameras is because the focus has to be nailed constantly, because you've got very little depth of field to play with. So the larger the sensor, the more problems you create in a way. So camcorders, bring them back.
Camcorder is back. I've seen 2 models came back from Sony last year, and then Canon. I think Sony make a couple of new camcorders, and I think Panasonic as well soon. And I'm pretty sure Canon's going to come back with some camcorders as well, because they haven't really discontinued their line, so it's still current.
And there are some very big professional camcorder designs for news gathering that are used for journalistic purposes.
Yeah, and now we got better sensors, we got better processors, we might actually see a new breed of camcorders coming out soon.
So is this going to be your way of working now, Jim? You're going to have a camcorder and a stills camera.
If you can shoot 4K 120, I'll buy one.
So this as well is interesting. This 4K 120 thing. There was a comment earlier on about the Sony A7S III being only 12 megapixels. I think we were talking about resolution at the time. And somebody remarked that it was perhaps because Sony wanted improved sensitivity at higher ISO, improved noise at higher ISOs. I think that was part of the original message, but I think actually the reason it's continued to be so successful is that it's the perfect native resolution for 4K. So this is why the Sony A7S III can shoot 4K 120 when no other camera can, because it's a native one-to-one relationship. There's no oversampling, there's no cropping, there's no pixel binning or line skipping. There isn't the same processing overhead you get with a higher resolution sensor. So you have to get the right thing for the right job.
Well, that's why I always say, the Lumix GX5 was GX5S. Was a phenomenal camera because it's tailored for what it does best, which is 4K video, and it does good in low light. It does good in everything, and even though it's a very old camera, to be honest, if you're a videographer, the GX5S is still worth a look, even though all these years have been around, and you can probably pick one up quite cheap now. So I think people may have misunderstood when it comes to hybrid cameras and newer high resolution sensors and processing and everything like that. And like you said, they're all oversampling. There's so much overhead there. Having something that is dedicated to what does best is the best camera.
It's where so much of the heat comes from. The oversampling and shuffling all that data.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd be interesting to see how hybrid cameras go from here. I think the camera makers are making them more complex just to try to keep selling them. But I don't think they're quite the right product for that kind of use.
It would be curious to see, and anyone can chip in this one as well, like to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years, because now we see the market is so mixed and so many different people, niche player, playing a significant role in the industry. Like I said, DJI came from nowhere, from being a drone manufacturers into suddenly overtaking the vlogging industry by storm by having just one camera, just one product. And now with the integrated solutions like the mics and now, the Action 5, the forthcoming 360 camera, I'm pretty sure they're going to basically solidify and consolidate its position being the number one vlogging kind of setup or supplier. So what are the other manufacturers going to do? Like if they can't do something what DJI does. They don't have the gimbal technologies. They still want to maximize the R&D by redeveloping, reshelling another, gut into a vlogging body. They're gonna keep doing that, but then how many people are gonna buy those? That means they're gonna keep pumping out products which no one wants, and it's not gonna be helpful.
No. Do you think it's a matter of philosophy and ambition? So a company like DJI is trying to make a space for itself in the market and is going all out. Whereas companies like Sony, Nikon and Canon, they're like, oh, we must protect our position. They're looking inwards instead of outwards. And they're just being very reactive and cautious.
They are. I mean, but I can say to all manufacturers, though, isn't it? Like even for the likes of Fujifilm, even though they may have a lot of hot sellers at the moment for the past couple of years, but you can see what they're doing right now is that they are continue to milk the existing customer base. If I'm being honest,
they're all engaged in a war to get a bigger slice of the same size pie. The pie's not getting bigger. They're just trying to get a bigger slice of it.
Yep. So they're not thinking outward. They're not thinking something different. Although I have to say the X-Half is quite refreshing to see. But but apart from that, the X series, the APS-C camera lines, and they are just the same thing. Like I know people have been moaning about the OMD, Micro Four Thirds OM3, the OM5, and the Lumix to a certain extent, the other cameras that they released before. But if you look at the likes of Fujifilm, it's no difference in that the upgrades are not exactly that big. And if you really study it, it's simply a new shell with a slight bump in this and that.
I think, to be honest, in today's market, getting a new shell is a victory. Because we all know camera makers who don't even bother doing that.
Hey, the OM5 Multi has a new color.
Oh, that's true. It's what's it called again? Pale mud? Is it?
It's called the sand beige or sandy beige, or whatever. Sand beige.
I knew it's something to do with things you find on the beach.
I ordered one, so I'm still waiting for it.
I'm waiting for a review sample for our own system.
Just since we talk about Micro Four Thirds today, how many of you ordered the OM5? I'm just curious. Well, I know I ordered one. Ordered the sand beige color. From just to tell you a little bit of the insider news as well. Apparently, all the sand beige color is sold out as we speak at the moment, so I don't think you can actually get one. According to OM System as well, it's a limited run as well, so that means that if you can't buy them now, you probably can't buy them unless someone sell it second-hand market, or there is some stock, somehow people cancel the order and remain on the list, so you can get one of those as well. But I know B&H sold them out in the States, and you can't get them now. I think the OM System website also sold out, if I'm correct. Interesting how well received it is.
I think they should sell skins you can put on yourself.
Yeah.
Or like vinyl wraps actually made by our own system that are just replaceable.
Well, you know that Nikon does all these different colors, the ZFC and ZF. You can only do it via their you can only do that via their website. So you can just basically order the color. I think it's actually pretty clever. I think that you get something slightly different. You can't buy it on in the shop because shop only sell the standard black color. So if you do it online, not only they drive more traffic to the website because they have to go to your website to order it, and but they also give people something to shout about. It's how many people has complimented my orange ZF. Every time I take it out, people always say, "Oh, that looks different." Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can't have a different camera, you can have a different color.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that
like it does with special editions, but they stick another $5,000 on the price. So hopefully there'll be a cheaper alternative. And it sounds like something very childish, but it makes a difference. You have to like your camera.
You know what? Yeah, we are photographers, but we also like a little bit of life, as well. And all the cameras are black and silver. It's a bit boring now, and just change it up a little bit.
Tell you what would be really good for street photography if you could get a covering which was like the Klingon. No, it wasn't Klingons. Romulan cloak of invisibility. That'd be a cool skin.
Yeah, I know. That'll be awesome, right? I don't know what people's favorite color is, but if any camera manufacturers offer me like a yellow or orangey color skin, I'll go straight down. I'll double down buy them. Yeah. Chrome.
That'd be nice. Or
brass.
Or glass.
Brass color.
Brass, glass, anything like that.
Yeah.
How do we even get here?
I don't know.
But if you can't do anything about the tech, you can still do something about the design. And somebody remarked earlier that they wanted a camera with no video, and I know you're fairly skeptical about video in hybrid cameras. It's not a bad point. When we're at the Western Wales photography show, I was listening to a guy talking on one of the stands complaining that he didn't want to buy a camera that had video because he resented paying for videotape. I mean, it's a silly argument because you can't separate them these days. But I think if you were to sell a camera that just didn't have a video setting on the dial, no video in the menus, it would be quite a lot simpler to operate. And I think people would buy it.
I think so. I mean, to be honest, we keep talking about how we should get people to buy cameras. We talked about it, I think, a couple of episodes ago. It's by design. Like we are a little bit overwhelmed with all these numbers and specs and things like that now. We come to the point that what the heck? There's still cameras, right? We still press the same shutter button, adjust the same exposure triangles, and that's what we want. It's about creativity. It's not so much about numbers. So what else can kind of get you to buy a camera? I think to me these days would be the design.
I would like a shutter speed dial.
Yeah.
And aperture rings. I don't think they'll ever do that because I think those boats were burned long ago. It's an OM system. But I
would like to see OM systems support Lumix aperture rings. The lenses with aperture ring. That'll be quite good.
Yeah, or even do what Nikon does and just put a little LCD on the top that shows you the aperture. It's not quite the same, but it's it's a start. Because with the ZFC and the ZF, you do get a shutter speed dial, and it does have that kind of feel about it. And I do think these days we're not paying enough attention to shutter speed.
No.
We always used to, but we don't today for some reason. But it's quite an important thing.
It is very important, for especially, for people who are not too experienced when it comes to shutter speed control. And, depending on actions and depending on what sort of thing you shoot with, because I got sometime I received email and they're saying why my images are blurry, and when I look at the EXIF data from the camera, very often they actually is very slow shutter speed because they haven't just understand the exact relationship between focal length and shutter speed. We used to calculate as simple rules, right? The focal length and the shutter speed, and because of the IBIS, it confuses the matter a lot because people say, "Oh, you got eight stop IBIS now. That means that you can shoot a lot slower." It is in theory, yes, correct, but then you still have to freeze the motion, right? You still have to freeze them. So you know,
there's been an embarrassing number of times when I've been testing cameras burst speeds and continuous AF tracking, and I've forgotten to take the camera off P, and it's been a silly shutter speed. And so in years ago, I would have remembered, you know, like shooting football. I did a football shoot with a pro. We said a 640th of a second, perfect shutter speed for soccer, because you've got freezes movement just enough, but it's still got some movement in the feet and the hands on the ball. But it's very easy just to leave the camera where it was last time, go and shoot in burst mode and find all your shots at a shutter speed that's totally inappropriate for what you're shooting. So I think having a shutter speed dial on the top reminds you that I put it on continuous. Oh, look, 30th of a second isn't going to do it. I'm going to need a 500 or whatever. So, you know, anything that helps you remember what you're supposed to be doing is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, to me at least, I think the OM3 really signifies not only that OM system is back on track with the retro thing, which has always been the Olympus thing, right? You know, most of the cameras are always retro styling. So, and OM3 really was the very first OM research and development products. So I'm really glad to see this. So that means that any upcoming products coming from them should be fairly interesting when it comes to design, which I'm looking forward to see. I think that's probably a very positive thing that has come out from this year so far in 2025 is the development of OM. I know that OM after the takeover is still relatively small team and as a whole, you know, compared to now the likes of Fuji, Canon, Nikon, and Sony. It's very, very small company by comparison, but they're doing what they can with the resources that they have to continue to push on, you know, with the development of the products. I think is worth really just, you know, to consider that point and be happy about, you know, what they've done so far.
I think so, and I think as well that perhaps we've got very focused on the tech.
Yeah,
we had to remember that for the OM3 OM system designed and built an entirely new camera. Now, how often does that happen? When was the last time any major camera manufacturer designed a new camera? It doesn't happen very often. That does take development effort.
Yeah. So people may not actually. Yeah, I definitely do. I think that I when they first came out, that's why without any hesitation to order one straight away, because it's a big effort from them. You know, just you know, we have the OM1, EM1 basically carried over, OM1 carried over from the EM1, so they have that line for so many years, and so is the OM5, which is basically EM5 before that. And you don't see many new category coming out, and so this is the brand new categories, and from what I know, there are more to come as well. So that is something that maybe worth celebrating. And but obviously, I can't say too much at this point, and in fact, I don't know much about it. But some more interesting product will come very, very soon in the future. So we shall see.
I think I'd be just as happy to see development in physical design as I would technical development.
Yes.
Because for my purposes, cameras already do what I need them to do technically.
Yeah.
But physically, a lot of them still fall some way short of what I'd like. I'd very much like it if Sony could ask OM System to design their next A7, maybe an A8. Can you just imagine that? A Sony A8 designed for Sony by a company that does actually design cameras. Sorry, Sony, but you know it's true.
Well, you know, I think everyone can concur that Sony products look exactly the same, right? You know, like it's actually quite kind of interesting to me that how can a company can reuse a body design for so many products? You know, for me, you would have thought they would change it up a little bit, but you know, if you look at the overall grand scheme of things, you know, the overall design, they are different shapes and different sizes, and they're really a little bit subtle differences. But the overall shape is basically the same.
It's like they've never actually sat down and thought, do you know what? Is this actually working? Can we make it better? No, forget it. We need a new processor. Put that in instead. That'll do it.
Yeah, let's put more megapixels in it.
They just no effort on physical product design, in my opinion. I don't think Canon's a whole lot better. They make cameras like they always have. It's fine, but
well, the biggest change for Canon. Yeah, the biggest change in terms of Canon design is basically the shift between DSLR to the mirrorless. That's the biggest change because they had to change the design.
But the mirrorless cameras do look very much like the old SLRs.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's like Canon again has decided. Do you know what? This is what camera should look like. We're not going to look at that again. We've decided we'll just concentrate on the tech now.
Yeah. So that is why I really admire companies, not just about OM system, but also Sigma. You know, I know Sigma's cameras is not necessarily be the best handling or whatever, but they are trying like different things.
Yeah. And also a bit of a shout out to Nikon as well. For the ZFC and the ZF, and I think the Z8 was quite brave. You know, no mechanical shutter.
Yeah.
So I think Nikon at least does design cameras. Does go back to the drawing board from time to time and do something different. So I think they deserve some credit. But for anyone who says that OM system isn't doing any development work, in terms of technical stuff, maybe not. But in terms of physical design, the OM3, that's about 5 years' work for any other camera maker. And most of them probably wouldn't attempt it.
Yeah, I mean, especially the new toolings and everything like that, you know, it does cost a lot to do that. And it's very interesting. But on that note, I would like to hear from you. What sort of camera would you like to see from, we talk about Micro Four Thirds, so let's talk about Micro Four Thirds here in general. What I know people already mentioned Pan F, so like we know about Pan F. Everyone still wants a Pan F. Okay, right. So that's one on the list. But what else would you like to see coming from the Micro Four Thirds community? You know, like would it be a new fixed lens compact camera? You know, a bit like the X100. You know, that would be cool, right? I would like to see a Micro Four Thirds sensor compact cameras again, like the LX100, right? From Panasonic. I know they stopped it already, but wouldn't that be great to have another one?
I did check out the Deluxe 8 against the LX100 too. And although the Deluxe 8 is very much more expensive than the Panasonic ever was, if you look at them side by side, I think you'd have to say that Leica has just nailed the physical design.
Yeah.
Because the Panasonic version, technically the same inside, but the rather fussy, complicated little camera. But the Leica, beautiful. Well, just expensive.
It just shows you how important the design means to a photographer. Yeah. As simple as that, you know. It is. You know, the Deluxe 8 is way more classier, it's more simplified, it's not cluttered, the menu system just brilliant, you know, like very simple. You get to exactly what you need as a photographer, the ISO, the shutter speed, whatever setting you need to do very simply and quickly. You don't have to dial into sub-menus, you know, like most of the Lumix cameras did. It's brilliant, you know, like I think that alone may worth the premium, even though it has the same gut. And I know the Deluxe 8 has sold very, very well. Not only is one of the cheapest Leica you can get on the market right now, but still, you know, it's still got a relatively big sensor. You know, it's not a small sensor. When you think about it, it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor. Yeah,
it's that interesting multi-aspect design as well. But I think what Leica has done differently with the Deluxe 8 compared to previous collaborations is with the Deluxe 8 they really have redesigned the exterior and the experience. And when you see it you think maybe it is worth the price. So I'm not sure the LX102 sold particularly well, but I get the feeling the Deluxe 8 is doing pretty well.
The Deluxe 8 sold very well, and no, the LX102 wasn't very a popular camera, even though now people want them, but then only because of the craze of, you know, having a small compact, a larger sensor compact cameras. But that's the reason why Lumix kind of killed it. You know, they didn't release the Mark III, and or almost like certain that they have basically closed the developments of that line. It would be a shame, you know, and but that means that potentially Leica is not going to make a Deluxe 9 unless there's a new collaborations that is either was going to be exclusive contract with Leica, or Lumix will have to produce a Mark III LX100s, and so it will be interesting to see what the space is like now for that market. So Deluxe 8 may be the last one you can get. I don't know.
Or Leica may be able to lean on Panasonic, saying, "Well, if you're going to use our branding on some of your lenses, we need something back from you. So give us another sensor. Give us another bit of compact camera tech to work with.
Yeah,
but you know, imagine if you could get that 25 megapixel Panasonic sensor into a Deluxe 9, that'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be a big jump, right? Because the Deluxe 8 16 megapixel or sensor
17, I think.
Was it 17?
Depending on the ratio you choose. Yeah.
So it's not particularly high, but if you jump to 25, that's a bigger jump. That's a bigger jump than a 20 to 25. Yeah. So you should see a significant bigger image file and for more details if you are into that sort of thing.
And you'd feel you had made some progress as well.
Yeah, and I just got some feedback now. So anyone else just chip in now. So new OM1X. Whoa! Anyone want a big camera? Anyone wants a big Micro Four Thirds camera? Actually, I don't mind one.
Well, some of those big telephotos really need a big camera to put them on, just for stability and comfort. And if you're out shooting wildlife all day, you could do with the extra battery capacity too. I always thought this is another thing. Sony needed to make a professional sports camera with an integrated grip. The A9 III with this global shutter, extraordinary technology. Why on earth is it not in a kind of double height integrated grip body? Why? Why?
Yeah.
If anyone asked me before they
because they, like you said, they don't care about the design. They just want the same body shape. Yeah, that's fine.
They already have an A9 body. We're not going to make another one. What do you think we are? Think we made the money? Yes, our money.
So yeah, that's interesting. OM1X. So next one, Mark is saying that let's have an Olympus XA digital camera, and XA would be quite cool. Yes, I would like that. Rival the Ricoh
design.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
I like the clamshell idea because you don't need a soft pouch. You don't need a lens cap.
Shove it straight into the pocket.
Shut it straight in your pocket. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, really good, and it protects it, right? You know, it really protects the lens and everything.
Smooth corners, nothing to snag on your zips or your buttons as you take it in and out. Perfect.
Yeah, you know, that would be really cool, especially like in today's market. Everyone wants a compact camera, right? You know, they don't even need to use a Micro Four Thirds sensor. They just chuck the TG6 or TG7 sensor into it. They're still gonna feel like hotcake, you know.
Especially if the sliding clamshell was weather sealed or maybe even waterproof.
Oh my god! You're making everybody's wet dream now.
Of course, it couldn't be waterproof when you're shooting with it because the case would be open. But you know, something sealed against the elements. So you shut the camera, you get a rainstorm. It doesn't matter.
Or slide it open to turn on, close it, you know, to shut down. All of this stuff. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So let's see that. Okay, Anthony, slightly smaller and later than another one for the X model, the big one. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I think so. You know, those Olympus super telephotos, they're remarkable lenses, but they are big. It goes with the territory.
One with the 25 1.7 Panasonic lens looks like an old film camera. I'll throw my money into it.
Yeah, but you're not going to get anything with... The only way you're going to get a lens with an aperture ring is if you buy something from Laowa or some other third-party maker, sadly. Yeah, I would like that.
And another one here. I would love to see a Lumix GM or GX. From OM1, I would love the OM1X and Pen F2. Right, okay, you got some wishes there. I would like to see another tiny camera. I would like to see another tiny Micro Four Thirds camera. Even though that it's not for everyone, but it would be nice to see an updated tiny camera from any Micro Four Thirds makers.
I'd like a small ultra-wide lens. Because at the moment you have to go from the 9 to 18, which is probably past its best, up to something like the 8 to 25, which is too big.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. I don't know whether with your Fujifilm experiments you've taken a look at the Sigma 10 to 18.
Oh yeah.
That is how big an OM system ultra-wide zoom should be. If Sigma can do it for APS-C, why can nobody make something even smaller for MFT?
Well, Funny you mentioned about Sigma now.
And that's a 2.8. That's a 2.8.
Funny you mentioned about Sigma because I'm currently testing the new 17 to 40 millimeters f1.8 constant aperture zoom.
That's nice,
I am amazed with that lens. I'm testing on the XM5. Not only works very well, but come to think of it, this particular focal length is not that far off to the 12 to 42.8 micro four third standard zoom. Almost identical. It kind of works like a
version,
if they mix the micro four third version, a constant 1.8 aperture, weather sealed, sell for 650 quid. You know, it's going to be a big seller. It's going to be a big seller. All you need to do is just adapt to the micro four third platform, and it works straight away. And it's slightly longer, but it's not heavier because it's a plastic build, not like the 12 to 42.8, which is the metal build.
So what did you say? Was it 17 to 40?
So equivalent to 34 to
34 to 80.
44 to 80 in the full frame equivalent terms. Yes.
That's not bad for an environmental portrait lens, because
Not
you
at
can go
all.
straight from filming somebody in their environment to a nice head and shoulder shot.
Because now I'm using on it, I thought, I could really use this lens on my OM5 or the or OM3, and it works brilliant. You know, it's not that big for that body, and it's fully weather sealed, so it works very well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk
we've
to
got
Sigma. Are you going to make one for that, Michael Forthet?
Well, that 10 to 18 I admire on APS-C. That'd be a 20 to 36 f2.8.
Yeah.
Micro four thirds. I'd use it. I'd buy that.
Yeah. And don't forget that the original 17 to whatever, the DSLR days, the Sigma did have a 1.8 constant aperture
17
lens.
to 35, I had that lens,
Yeah, and that lens was so popular for filmmakers at the time to adapt to the GX line for filming and use a focal reducer to do that. So now if they can redo this new lens in the micro four third mount, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Have word with them, Jimmy. I'm sure you can pull a few strings. I'll mention it to them when I see them. I do bump into them now and again and have a chat.
To be honest, because we haven't had a new zoom for a long time and a standard zoom for a long time, and there will be a sole maker for a brand new zoom lens for micro four third.
We've got two candidates then. I think anyone who hasn't seen a Sigma 10 to 18, if they could picture that on an OM camera, they would think,
oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think the 17 to 40 f1.8, that at that price, that's quite a game changer.
It's a steal.
You could get that on an FT.
Yeah.
It's silly price for what it does. There's a Panasonic one which is a lot more expensive. It's over 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
There's a Panasonic. What is it? I can't remember the focal.
So I think Sigma may have a couple of untapped gold mine. They could explore.
I think we've reached the point though that where Sigma and Tamron are actually making better lenses in many instances than the camera makers.
Absolutely, and to be quite honest, if you look at
makes quite a few Nikons.
I know we talk a lot about Chinese lenses, but a lot of Chinese makers are making prime lenses, and none of them are making zoom lenses. So Tamron and Sigma are still really the main players to make zoom lenses as a third party. So they're kind of almost exclusive at the moment. So if anyone wants a high quality zoom lenses, without paying a fortune for like Sony, Nikon, and whatever, they have some great options from Sigma and Tamron.
I think back in the day, a Sigma or a Tamron would be a lot cheaper than a known brand lens, but not as good.
Yep.
Now they're a lot cheaper and at least as good, if not better. That's my take on it.
That's why I'm so amazed with the new lens. So I'm actually considering getting it because it's actually quite cheap for what it is, And I think it will work well for all the APS-C cameras, especially now I've got the XM5 and I could use it on the Fujifilm cameras.
My dog has started looking at my headphone cable.
Okay, right. So we gotta wrap it up. But one last wish list, I think from people, and let me just gonna bring that up. GWR actually had the wish for a lens. It's 400 millimeters 2.8 with teleconverter. You're shooting wildlife, so the 150 to 400. You want a prime, not a zoom.
Yeah.
But
Well,
400 2.8 could be quite big, right? I think it's a big lens.
Technically, there's no problem with that, but I think you're looking. So on full frame of 400 2.8 is going to be 12 or 13,000 UK pounds. Smaller format is going to be at least half that, and if you want to add in a teleconverter, it's not going to be a cheap lens. But maybe GWR's got pots of money. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be. It would be several thousand, but it would be quite a nice lens. Yeah.
It's be a niche lens because a tele prime, right? It's going to be, usually for who dedicated to do a lot of long shooting.
Yeah, I think it would be. It'd be quite specialized, and I think perhaps with the limited resolution of MFT, maybe you're better off with a zoom, because then at least you can frame it to fill the frame and not have to rely on getting further back and cropping.
I'm still hoping one day I'm going to own the Olympus 150 to 400 Pro lens, the white one, the big one. But I can't justify the price, and even the current pricing. I know it come down a little bit now. You can get a streetwise about £6,500. I think you can get one, and so it's still not a cheap lens. And unless I can make use of it, I don't think I can justify myself spending £6,500 on a lens.
Unless you can figure out a way to do all your photo shoots by sending a subject off into scenery and you just stay in your car and leave the lens on the window.
Just stand on the other side of the River Thames. I will photograph from here.
Yeah.
or stand on top of the Big Ben. Yeah, there you go.
You're too close. What? You're too close.
We have to use a walkie-talkie to do that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. But anyway, that's a fun chat today about all this stuff. But so I'm going to wrap it up now. So anyone, thank you very much for joining us today. And please, if you do have anything to share, please let me know in the comment section below. Any sort of wish lists, anything that you want to talk to OM System that concerns you. I may be able to relate your messages over, and if it's valid, and then so I will be in constant communication with them if you want to have anything to say about certain products or things like that. I can't make your dream come true. That's still a corporate decision. Let's be honest with that. So but any sort of thing that you may want to talk about, please feel free. And obviously we have a community here. We all use Micro Four Thirds gears. We like Micro Four Thirds. We're going to continue to support this format no matter what happens, and hopefully this will be a lifelong journey for all of us. And but at the same time we also use other gear as well, because we all gear nerd at the same time. So but just don't talk about my resolution too much.
Well, we had to accept what is.
Yeah.
We also had to accept what is enough.
Yep. Before we go, let me hang it up. I finally hang it up now. I just want to show you this silver button. Can you see that?
What's that, Jimmy?
That's my silver button for 100,000 subscriber YouTube.
Oh!
Yes, look at that. Can you see that right here? Yes. Finally made it.
Excited. Even the dog's excited. Look.
So it is here.
Excellent. Well done.
It is here. So I'm very happy about that.
Well done. Good.
Excellent.
Good.
So on that note, let's talk in the future again. Hopefully we're going to be back on Wednesday next week, depending on my work schedule. Like I said in last stream, that I'm currently very busy. So there are times that I may not be able to make the live stream. So I may shift the schedule a little bit. May have to cancel at some point, depending on what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm happy to be here, and also Rod. We're all having some fun talking to you guys and talk about anything. I'm going to try to bring back my interview series, talk to photographers, hopefully in September, when I'm less busy. Yep.
So on that note, I have a pro photographer friend nearby who's really into analog stuff. I was having coffee with him the other day.
Yep.
Would anybody be interested in like a little show and tell? Because he's got a 5x4 folding film camera. He's got two Fuji film 6x9 and a 6x17 rangefinder, medium format.
Gosh.
And he also makes cameras out of biscuit tins and disposable camera lenses.
Yes.
So interesting guy. Maybe it's something to consider.
Oh yeah, no,
different.
We definitely bring it. Definitely, bro. Chuck already say for sure. Okay, yeah, definitely. Okay,
I'll
that's
have a
good.
chat with him. He's pretty clued up with video stuff. I could take my gear around his, and he could show us the kind of stuff he does.
Yeah, that would be great.
Very, very different, very analog, very experimental.
So we love a bit of experiment when it comes to photography. You know, it's very interesting, especially analog.
He also has an OM1 SLR,
right,
which he uses as a rangefinder for his 5x4 camera. So what happens is, so he's doing portraits with his 5x4.
Yep.
And of course, you have to bend over, get a new plate, take the insert the plate. You're fiddling around in your bag with lots of stuff. While you're doing that, maybe a subject's looked at their phone or moved a quarter of an inch, and they've gone out of focus. Because once you insert the film in your camera, you can't check focus.
No.
So he uses his own one when he gets back to the camera to make sure they haven't moved.
Oh, I see what you mean now. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a focus point confirmation tool.
Honestly, it does some very weird and very interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have it in the show. Talk about his photography and his techniques and using this gear.
He's got a portable darkroom in a battered old suitcase. He's got all sorts. So I'll have a chat with him and work something out.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. In fact, actually, I don't know. I think very first time I say about this, I actually bought a new analog camera. Well, not new,
Excellent.
a used camera. I bought it from Japan, so it's an Olympus compact film camera. So I'm gonna show you guys next time.
Okay.
It's already arrived, so I need to open the box and check it.
Excellent. We look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, very good. So I'm going to speak to you all guys very soon. And you guys take care and remember to continue shootings and enjoy photography as your daily exercise.
Excellent.
Okay. See you guys very soon. Bye.
Bye.